More than half of seniors who drink beet juice daily are pairing it with foods that silently overload their circulation. No pain, no warning, just dizziness, weakness, and one wrong step away from a fall. In my decades working with aging patients, I learned something most headlines never explain. Powerful foods behave like medicine in an aging body. And medicine, when mistimed or combined incorrectly, doesn't heal. It destabilizes. There's a principle I learned early on from Dr. Shiigaki Hinohara, one of the longest living physicians in modern history. He believed longevity was never about intensity, extremes, or chasing trends. It was about precision, moderation, respect for how the body changes with time. He warned that after 60, the body no longer forgives excess the way it once did. And beet juice is a perfect example of this problem. We've been taught to think of it as a beverage, something you pour, blend, or add to a smoothie. But that framing is dangerous. Beet juice is not a drink. It's a concentrated biological signal. It directly alters blood flow. It changes how your arteries open. It shifts how your kidneys filter minerals. And after 60, those systems no longer adjust quickly. They respond slowly, sometimes too slowly. Here is the hidden danger nobody explains clearly enough. What helps one system in your body can quietly overwhelm another. Your heart may relax faster than your brain can adapt. Your blood pressure may drop faster than your balance system can respond. Your kidneys may receive more compounds than they can safely clear. I often explain beet juice to my patients like this. It's strong medicine, not refreshment. And medicine only works when taken at the right time with the right companions. This is where modern wellness culture gets seniors into trouble. We assume that combining healthy things must make them healthier. More antioxidants, more circulation boosters, more natural support. But biology doesn't work like a grocery list. This idea aligns closely with the balance-based health philosophy of Dr. Andrew Weil, who has long warned that health breaks down when powerful tools are used without harmony, even natural ones, especially natural ones. The mistake I see over and over is this. Older adults stack beet juice with foods that are also biologically active, without realizing they are multiplying effects, not supporting balance. The result is rarely dramatic enough to make headlines. Instead, it shows up as lightheadedness when standing, a sudden wave of weakness late in the morning, an unexplained fall, kidney strain that develops quietly over months, or medications that suddenly feel too strong. These are the events that steal independence, and they're preventable. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the exact 8 foods you should never consume at the same time as beet juice, especially after 60. I'll explain why the aging body reacts differently, what's happening inside your blood vessels and kidneys, and, most importantly, how to use beet juice safely, deliberately, and intelligently so it supports healthy aging instead of undermining it. Listen closely. Precision matters now more than ever. This is the most immediate risk, and it's also the one that surprises people the most. Beet juice is famous for one specific reason. It raises nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is a signaling molecule that tells blood vessels to relax and widen. In younger bodies, that process is smooth and self-correcting. Pressure drops slightly, sensors respond, and balance is maintained. After 60, that system slows down. Blood pressure regulation becomes less agile. The reflex that tightens vessels when you stand up weakens. The brain receives blood a fraction of a second later than it should. That delay is small, but in an aging nervous system, small delays matter. When beet juice is consumed alone, this effect is usually modest, but the problem begins when it's combined with other foods that push nitric oxide even higher at the same time. This is where the danger quietly stacks. Leafy greens like arugula and spinach, along with vegetables such as celery, are also rich in nitrates. Individually, they are often well tolerated. Together with beet juice, they can amplify the same biological signal all at once. Inside the body, this looks like multiple switches being flipped simultaneously. Blood vessels throughout the system receive a strong command to open. Pressure drops rapidly, not gradually. An older plumbing system can't adapt to that kind of sudden release. Imagine an old house with aging pipes. If you open one valve, the system adjusts. If you open every valve at once, pressure drops everywhere. Water struggles to reach the upper floors. The flow becomes unstable. That's what happens inside the circulatory system when multiple nitrate-rich foods converge at the same time. I think of a patient like George, 71. He blended beet juice into what he believed was a heart-supportive smoothie. Spinach, celery, a clean protein base. Nothing extreme, nothing reckless. Yet within minutes of standing up, the room tilted. His legs felt uncertain. He hadn't fainted, but his body had clearly lost its equilibrium. This isn't weakness, it's physiology. As we age, the baroreceptors, the pressure sensors in the arteries, respond more slowly. When pressure drops too fast, the brain is briefly undersupplied. That moment is when falls happen. Not because someone is careless, but because the system was overloaded. The key issue here is timing, not fear. Beet juice and other nitrate-dense vegetables do not fail the body individually. The problem arises when their effects overlap too closely. Spacing matters because the nitrate to nitric oxide conversion unfolds over hours, not minutes. When those windows overlap, the body receives more vasodilation than it can comfortably manage. This is also why the sensation often appears when standing after sitting or bending. The circulatory system is already under demand, and the added relaxation tips it past stability. In older adults, the consequences of that momentary instability are disproportionate. A brief spell of lightheadedness can become a fall can become a fracture can change a life. This is why stacking circulation boosters is far more impactful after 60 than it ever was earlier in life. Beet juice, arugula, spinach, and celery all belong in a thoughtful diet. But when they converge too closely, they act less like nourishment and more like an unmeasured intervention. The body at this stage of life doesn't need stronger signals, it needs clearer ones. If understanding food timing protects your balance and independence, subscribe here. This risk doesn't arrive suddenly. It unfolds quietly over hours, which is why it's so often misunderstood. Many older adults live with well-managed blood pressure or heart conditions. Medications are carefully calibrated to relax blood vessels just enough, slow the heart just enough, and maintain a stable internal rhythm. When that balance is preserved, people feel steady, clear-headed, functional. Beet juice introduces another layer into that equation. Its nitrates increase nitric oxide, which widens blood vessels through the same physiological pathway targeted by many cardiovascular medications. On paper, that might sound supportive. In practice, it can amplify the effect beyond what the system was designed to handle. This is where the body experiences something similar to doubling a dose without realizing it. The circulatory system doesn't distinguish between signals from a pill and signals from food. It only knows the final instruction. Relax the vessels. Lower resistance. Increase flow. When beet juice is layered too close to certain foods that also enhance vasodilation, the combined signal becomes stronger than intended. Garlic, particularly when raw or concentrated, carries powerful vascular effects. It influences nitric oxide pathways and alters platelet activity. Pomegranate compounds further enhance endothelial relaxation and can interfere with how medications are metabolized. Together, these effects don't clash, they compound. Inside the body, this resembles pressing the accelerator while cruise control is already engaged. The system was stable, now it's being pushed without a clear boundary. I recall someone like Linda, 76. Her medications had been unchanged for years. No recent dosage adjustments, no new prescriptions. Yet by late morning she felt drained, weak, a subtle sense that her legs didn't fully belong to her. Her blood pressure wasn't dangerously low, but it was lower than her brain preferred. Nothing about her routine appeared extreme. Beet juice felt natural. Garlic felt protective. Pomegranate felt heart-smart. But physiology isn't guided by intention. As we age, liver enzymes that metabolize both medications and plant compounds become less predictable. Clearance slows. Peaks last longer. What once passed through smoothly now lingers. That lingering effect is what turns amplification into risk. The troubling part is that the body often adapts silently at first. There may be no dramatic warning, just fatigue, slight breathlessness, a sense of heaviness. These sensations are easy to dismiss, especially when they appear hours after consumption, but they represent a system being pushed past its optimal range. This interaction doesn't mean beet juice is harmful. It means that in an aging body already influenced by medications, Its timing and companions carry more weight than most people realize. The danger is not the food. The danger is the overlap. When multiple agents speak the same biological language at the same time, the message becomes too loud. And the aging cardiovascular system no longer has the reflexes it once did to soften that signal. What once felt energizing can quietly become destabilizing. This risk rarely announces itself early. It develops quietly over weeks or months, and by the time it becomes visible, the damage is already underway. Beet juice contains oxalates. These are naturally occurring compounds found in many plant foods. In younger bodies with strong kidney filtration and abundant hydration signals, oxalates are usually handled without consequence. After 60, that margin narrows. Kidney filtration gradually declines with age. Not enough to cause immediate alarm, but enough to change how minerals and waste products are processed. Calcium handling shifts, urinary concentration changes. What once flowed through now has a greater tendency to linger. Oxalates have a particular behavior that makes this important. They bind to calcium. When oxalate levels rise faster than the kidneys can clear them, crystals begin to form. Over time, those crystals can aggregate into stones. One source of oxalates is often manageable. The problem arises when multiple sources converge repeatedly. Beet juice is one. Almonds and almond milk are another. Dark chocolate adds yet another layer. Individually, each is often labeled as healthy. Together, they create a mineral load that aging kidneys struggle to disperse. I think of oxalates like fine sand. A small amount washes through a drain without issue, but add sand day after day from several directions at once, and the drain begins to clog. The flow slows. Pressure builds behind the blockage. That's essentially what happens inside the kidneys. Consider someone like Robert, 68. He started his mornings with beet juice blended into almond milk. In the evening, a small square of dark chocolate felt like a reasonable indulgence. None of these choices felt excessive, yet over time discomfort appeared. Then pain. Eventually, imaging revealed stones that hadn't been there before. This wasn't bad luck, it was cumulative load. The aging kidney doesn't fail suddenly. It loses flexibility. Its ability to buffer excess weakens. Oxalate accumulation is one of the quiet consequences of that shift. What makes this particularly deceptive is the delay. The cause and effect are separated by time. The body doesn't protest immediately. It absorbs, stores, concentrates. Only later does the system signal distress. Hydration alone doesn't fully offset this when oxalate sources are stacked too closely. Water helps, but it doesn't erase chemical binding that has already occurred. This is why kidney stone risk often rises in people who believe they are eating clean, plant-forward diets without realizing how certain compounds interact. After 60, the question is no longer whether a food is healthy in isolation. It's how many similar compounds the body is being asked to process at once. When the load exceeds the kidney's aging capacity, the consequences emerge slowly, but they are very real. This final interaction is the most counterintuitive, and for many older adults, the most revealing. Beet juice is often mixed with other foods to improve taste or increase perceived nutritional value. Yogurt, milk, smoothie blends. These additions feel gentle, even protective, yet inside an aging body, they can quietly neutralize the very effect beet juice is known for, or distort it in ways that destabilize the system. The biology here is subtle but powerful. Beet juice relies on a specific conversion pathway. Dietary nitrates must be converted into nitric oxide, and that process begins in the mouth and continues through the digestive tract. Certain minerals and compounds interfere with that conversion. Calcium is one of them. Dairy foods, milk, yogurt, kefir, contain high levels of calcium that bind to nitrates and reduce their bioavailability. Instead of a smooth, predictable rise in nitric oxide, the signal becomes fragmented. Some of it is blocked. Some of it is delayed. The body receives an uneven message. At the same time, many dairy-based combinations include fruit. Fruit introduces rapid sugars. In younger adults, blood sugar spikes are quickly corrected. After 60, glucose regulation slows, and sudden rises followed by drops can amplify sensations of shakiness, weakness, or internal imbalance. This creates a confusing internal environment. The circulatory system receives a partial vasodilation signal. blood sugar fluctuates. The nervous system attempts to compensate for both at once. The result is not energy or clarity, but instability. I think of someone like Susan, 74. She blended beet juice with yogurt and fruit, believing she was creating a nourishing, balanced drink. Within an hour, she felt unsteady, slightly tremulous. Not ill, but not grounded either. The body wasn't failing. It was juggling conflicting inputs. A helpful way to picture this is like mixing oil with glue. Each substance has its own purpose. Together, they interfere with one another's function. Neither performs as intended. This interaction becomes more pronounced with age because digestive efficiency changes. Enzyme production declines. Transit time shifts. Signals that once arrived cleanly now arrive distorted or delayed. Instead of a gentle, controlled effect on circulation, the body experiences uneven absorption and competing demands. For an older nervous system, that inconsistency is harder to reconcile. What makes this especially misleading is that nothing feels immediately wrong with the ingredients themselves. Dairy is familiar, fruit is comforting, beet juice is praised, yet when combined, they undermine one another. This is why timing and simplicity become more important than variety later in life. Beet juice works best when its signal is clear and unchallenged. When additional compounds interfere, the benefit erodes, and the side effects become more noticeable. The aging body doesn't need more layers. It needs fewer, cleaner messages. As we close, it's worth returning to a principle that has quietly guided the healthiest older adults I've known. Dr. Shigeaki Hinohara believed aging well was never about intensity or excess. It was about precision, about knowing that the body after 60 responds differently, more slowly, and with less tolerance for overlapping signals. When those limits are respected, the body remains remarkably capable. Beet juice reflects this truth clearly. It is not inherently good or bad. It is powerful, and power in an aging body must be handled with restraint. The same compounds that support circulation can destabilize balance, strain the kidneys, or amplify medications when their effects stack too closely together. This is where the balance-centered philosophy of Dr. Andrew Weil becomes relevant. Health doesn't fail because the body lacks tools. It falters when those tools are layered without harmony. More is rarely better. Better is better. The risks discussed are rarely dramatic. They appear as brief dizziness, unexplained fatigue, or subtle discomfort. Yet these small disruptions are often the first steps toward falls, injury, or loss of confidence. Aging does not mean the body is fragile. It means it requires clearer signals and fewer competing inputs. When powerful foods are used deliberately, they support independence. When they are rushed or multiplied, they quietly undermine it. Longevity is protected not by excess but by respect.